Unraveling the truth behind the human blood vessel length fact. Have you ever come across this fascinating fact? If you were to lay out all the blood vessels in the human body end to end, they would stretch up to 100,000 kilometers, enough to circle the Earth twice. It's one of those fun and mind-blowing facts that has been widely shared in books, apps, and videos. But where does this number actually come from? And how do we know it's true? This question led to an intense research journey that took over a year to unravel, sending us down a strange and baffling path. It all started quite innocently. We always collect interesting facts to make our storytelling more engaging, and this one seemed perfect. A small detail with an enormous number, truly captivating. But one day, someone asked a simple yet crucial question. Where does this number originate? At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. After all, it had to be true, right? A quick Google search of variations of "how long are your blood vessels" produces the same numbers over and over, 100,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles. It appears everywhere. In books, blogs, educational websites, lecture notes, scientific papers, and review articles. We had used it multiple times ourselves, so surely tracking down the original source wouldn't be too difficult. But the deeper we dug, the stranger things became. Not a single book, article, or website provided a direct reference to the original study. Many didn't cite a source at all, while others simply linked to one another in a circular chain of information. The number was accepted as fact without any apparent verification. Even more perplexing, different sources used the figure inconsistently. Some claimed it referred only to capillaries, others said it included veins and arteries, and some stated it represented the entire circulatory system. Something was clearly off. Getting our facts straight is crucial, and since we had relied on this number before, it now felt personal. We had to find the original source. Surely it had to be documented somewhere. But despite countless searches, we kept running into the same dead ends. Random Googling only led to thousands of websites repeating the claim without attribution. So, we turned to PubMed, the search engine for biomedical research papers. 0 results. That was odd. Maybe a different keyword combination would help? Still nothing. Eventually, we came across a handful of scientific papers that mentioned the figure, but again, none referenced the original study. The number even appeared in 2 different biology textbooks. We reached out to the authors, only to learn that the statistic had been circulating for decades. They too had no idea where it originated and were curious to find out. It became clear that we had to go further back in time. Narrowing our search to older sources, we focused on the 1990s. That's when we finally made a breakthrough. 2 books, Vital Circuits by Stephen Vogel and Looking at the Body by David Suzuki, contained the claim. Suzuki, a well-known science communicator with a PhD in zoology, had been presenting science to the public since the 1970s. He had authored 52 books and received 29 honorary degrees. If anyone knew the original source, it had to be him. We ordered a copy of Looking at the Body and found the statement. If all the body's blood vessels were laid end to end, they would stretch 96,000 kilometers, 60,000 miles, about 2.5 times around the world. But once again, no citation. Since Suzuki was still active in his late 80s, we attempted to contact him directly. He didn't have a public email, but we could send a formal letter. So, in a rather old-school move, we did just that. Dear Dr. Suzuki, we are reaching out on a matter of grave importance. What is the original source of the 100,000-kilometer claim? Our video and our sanity depend on it. Respectfully, the fact-checking team. 3 weeks later, we actually received a response. Dear curious internet researchers, unfortunately, Dr. Suzuki does not recall the source of this data. Since the book was written over 30 years ago, he no longer has records that old. Best of luck with your project. You're going to need it. Kind regards, Public Information Coordinator. They were very polite, but it was still a dead end. We turned to the other book, Vital Circuits by Stephen Vogel, a Duke University biomechanics professor. The number appeared in a sentence stating, combined length of pipes, 100,000 kilometers and 60,000 miles, more than twice around the Earth at the equator. But where did Vogel get this information? Unfortunately, his book contained a list of 93 references, but no indication of which source supported this specific claim. To find the original, we would have to sift through them one by one, a task that could take weeks. Was this really worth it? Had we gone too far down the rabbit hole in pursuit of a fact no one was questioning? But after investing so much time, we couldn't give up. So we started checking the sources, from last to first. And by sheer luck, the first source we examined turned out to be the key. It was a 1959 Scientific American article titled The Microcirculation of the Blood. This article finally provided a reference, The Anatomy and Physiology of Capillaries, a 1922 book by August Krogh, a Nobel Prize-winning scientist. If anyone knew what they were talking about, it was him. We ordered a copy of Krogh's book, and there it was, the original source. His estimate stated, supposing a man's muscles weigh 50 kilograms and his capillaries number 2,000 per square mm, the total length of these tubes must be approximately 100,000 kilometers, or 2.5 times around the globe. This was the earliest documented calculation of the number. But was it correct? Krogh's book included a cryptic table but lacked detailed calculations or explanations. He had arrived at the estimate by cutting muscle samples from various animals, counting capillaries, and making rule-of-thumb assumptions. However, modern research has shown that his assumptions about human capillary density were inaccurate. Additionally, his model was based on an idealized human body weighing 143 kilos with 50 kilo of pure muscle. In short, the 100,000 kilometer figure was never rigorously verified. It was more of an educated guess that ended up being widely accepted. Over the decades, it became detached from its original source and turned into an unquestioned fact. Ironically, while we were buried in research, a new scientific paper quietly published an updated estimate. If we had waited another year, we could have saved ourselves a lot of trouble. According to the latest research, the total length of human capillaries is actually between 9,000 and 19,000 kilometers, nowhere near enough to circle the globe. Yet, despite this correction, the 100,000 kilometer figure will likely persist. Misinformation is incredibly difficult to correct, especially when it comes in a simple, compelling, and memorable package. Most people, including scientists and science communicators, don't have the time to verify every widely accepted number. As long as a fact sounds reasonable and appears in credible sources, it tends to be repeated. Our journey to track down this one fact took a year of effort, but it provided a valuable lesson. Common wisdom should always be challenged. The most interesting stories often survive the longest, but that doesn't mean they are always true. Science is a process of constant questioning and reevaluation, and while we strive to present the most accurate information possible, we recognize that mistakes happen, even to the best of us. What matters is our willingness to correct them and keep pushing for the truth. See you next time as we continue unraveling the mysteries of the world, one fact at a time.